Hey, good morning. Still morning my time. No, actually it's 1:57 p.m. Friday, Friday, April 30th, 2021. Last video I made, I let you know that pretty much I was exposing the fraud in the Supreme Court of Jamaica. In one video, I asked the Chief Justice to resign. I thought I would have given them time to react to the letters I sent and all of that stuff. But that was like 2 weeks ago, if not three, and today nothing. I'm just sitting by the beach today, looking well the intracoastal waterway. Since I'm in Florida, looking at the boats going by. It was just raining, and I decided on enough. As I said before, is enough. We we were hoping that I would have heard from them by now, and I also made a number of allegations in those tapes, videos. Sorry, about what had transpired. And frankly, before I started, I didn't want to go ahead without letting everybody know that the facts that I mentioned were actually factually true, and that there are a number of documents that we filed in the courts, to which we are also waiting on dates to resolve these issues. Now, one of those documents I'm going to be showing you um, has to deal with the fact that I had to file suit against a number of persons coming out of the same fraud that was being done in the Supreme Court and nothing being done about it. And I did remember that I mentioned Alexis Robinson. And here I have her as the first respondent, I mean, first defendant in a claim I filed against her and Miles Fletcher and Gordon, second defendant, John Graham and Company, third and fourth defendant, and Suzette Spence, Nicola Della Pena, Yakum, I think, Fitzhenry, all named and unnamed parties with interest. And that came out of the fact that they showed up at our, well, not all, but Miss Della Pena, she was the realtor that attempted to list and sell our property. And I'm going to show you a clip of that as well. She listed the property for 1.5 million US, a property that's worth over 4 million. Trying to do a quick fire sale that was not approved, obviously, as we said, committing fraud. Then we have Alexis Robinson, who was the young lady who showed up and claimed she filed a withdrawal notice for the damages that's owed to us. And damages is property if you're not aware of it. Under the law, damages, and in this particular case, the damages we sought was covered under a debt instrument, a money instrument, a debt instrument issued to us by Capital One by the Supreme Court that they owe us damages for interfering with a number of projects we were doing in Jamaica and elsewhere. And the Supreme Court extended themselves by giving injunction against, in fact, two injunctions against our business to put a halt to those businesses for approximately 15 years, going 16 years. Initially, we started the businesses in 2005, and by 2012, the first injunction was given. In 2015, a second injunction was given, which put a hold on projects that we started from 2005, and we're still working to resolve those issues. In February of this year or March, since we filed a complaint against them with the U.S. Controller of Currency, they withdrew that second injunction and claim which they filed. No, there's no basis, as we said, for the claim. Supreme Court, the Appeals Court of Jamaica had already ruled they have no claim. But lower court judges in the Supreme Court decided to act in contempt of those Appeals Court judgment and order and allow John Graham to file those claims. So I did indicate that there are a number of documents that we filed. And so this is just to verify that what we filed was in fact from what we told it was true. So it was in front of the court, and in front of the court is in front of the court for the Chief Justice to know, and for everybody else to have known that there was fraud being committed and still nothing being done. So here's the first document, which was just going to show you the covers with those persons I mentioned that we actually filed suit, and they're part of the public record. So the newspapers that are telling us they're afraid to be sued have no basis to even use that as an excuse for the cover up. And it does go to show um, that whether it's voluntary or involuntary, um, they're neglecting their responsibilities. I just read the, the theme. You see that we listed all the fraud that was being committed, detailed chronological orders, so everybody could see it. And these are documents that were filed prior to even this claim being filed. I was in front of the court when uh, Justice B. Morrison came in and assisted the defrauding of our money instrument, the debt instrument of over $1 trillion US and still growing. The estimated damage that was done to us, that is being done to us over that 16-year period, extends into the trillions of dollars. We're not talking Jamaican dollars, we're talking US. And by capital one. So again, the this last document is an affidavit that was filed with the registrar, and if you look at the date, it's saying March 4th, 2020. So we filed this document to the registrar after um, they they went in and pulled the fraudulent withdrawal, filed a fraudulent withdrawal notice. And you see, it's not just an affidavit, it's signed and certified. So it's a legal document that's verifiable and authenticated. So again, no excuses. Here we have a letter sent to the Chief Justice from March 2019 about the fraud. And yet today, 2021, the Chief Justice has done nothing at all about the judge or the claim itself. And he's the manager of the Supreme Court, and he has authorization to deal with these corrupt judges. So when Justice Morrison did what he did, then Chief Justice had a responsibility to deal with it after we supplied the information that was fraud. This is an affidavit of urgency from Registered Agent of Business Ventures and Solutions, Inc., to the Registrar of the Supreme Court of Jamaica in support of striking a fraudulent notice of withdrawal or damages due in the captured matter, which is what we talked about. And this is where Capital One had gone into the Florida registrar companies, what we call the registrar company there is Florida Biz Division of Corporations. And when they couldn't succeed with the fraud and the court ruled that they had no connection with whatsoever to have made that claim or standing, and when they lost the claim and owed us damages, in order to try to get out of paying those damages, what they did, they tried to defraud me of Business Ventures and Solutions Inc. by filing a false claim in a bankruptcy petition in the United States, the Southern District Court, Bankruptcy Court of the Southern District of Florida. So they filed a false claim there that there were adverse rulings against me in the Jamaica Supreme Court, and that I owed them 600 and some thousand US dollars, which again was all lies and fraudulent. But the important thing is that these things were in front of court and in front of judge judges who um, made decisions that reflect that they weren't operating within the scope of their responsibilities. In fact, again, it's open corruption and fraud, and they know about it and they allowed it. So there's no excuse. So nobody can look at what I'm saying or claiming it's misrepresentation. So this one is an affidavit to the registrar of the Supreme Court, registering the fact that Capital One had actually gone into the U.S. Florida State Court, I mean bankruptcy court, and the division of corporation there, and filed papers replacing me as the what you call the um, registered agent, because I was their registered agent. However, um, when they did that, and we found out, and they actually filed papers in court, we both notified the Jamaica courts, notified the Florida courts, notified the Florida Division of Corporation, and we subsequently, in order to avoid that nonsense happening again, reported it to the Florida Division of Corporation. They noted the fraud and instructed us to say they didn't have a division within the corporation that dealt with fraud, so we must report it to the local law enforcement agencies in Florida, which we did. And the sheriff indicated that this was a matter for the Jamaica jurisdiction because the fraudulent um, activity came out of Jamaica, which we doubt because the fact that they did it in Florida means it was for fraud as well. But I didn't want the responsibility of getting involved. I guess we weren't important enough for whatever reason. But anyway, I had gone ahead and we filed the papers with it and corrected the fraud. And so I replaced the registered agent. Instead of me going back, one of the partners, Mr. William Bill Ridgely, which is right there, went in and registered as the agent, so they couldn't use that now as an excuse to say, well, they've got rulings out of the Jamaica court and therefore they could replace me. So after we did that, and Bill, Mr. William Ridgely, went in as the registered agent, the Division of Corporations corrected the status. What Capital One did after that now was to go in and go to New York, where we had originally registered a Business Ventures and Solutions Inc., which is different from the Business Ventures and Solutions Inc. that we're talking about in Florida, and now file papers to resurrect that corporation, which was dissolved, administratively dissolved, paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to get it reinstated. And in order to why they did that was because one, they had to get the original corporation, which was in New York, reinstated before they could uh, deal with the corporation in Florida. Now, knowing that they could no longer now file on that as replace themselves as registered agent, what they did, they revived the New York corporation, which we also had sent letters to the Division of Corporations in New York, in Albany, New York, and informed them of the fraud. But what they did, after they resurrected the corporation, they filed a withdrawal notice of Business Ventures and Solutions in Florida as a foreign corporation. That means that corporation was now officially closed. And even though it was closed fraudulently, we didn't mind. We had no issues with it because we had allowed the corporation to be administratively dissolved anyway from 2007. So they had tried to claim they purchased it, and when they found out that all those legal obstacles were in their way, and plus we contacted the Division of Corporation in Florida, what they did, they went back now to New York and did that and then withdraw, sorry, Florida Corporation. And then they came back into Jamaica claiming that no, they still represented Business Ventures and Solutions, or they owned it. But of course, Business Ventures and Solutions in New York had nothing to do with anything. And of course, the Appeals Court of Jamaica had already ruled, and then that they have no standing to have challenged the corporation regardless. But what it did, it disarmed their action that they had taken. The fraudulent action I mentioned that they had purchased my 100% interest in business ventures. Now, maybe you're not following if you didn't follow the other two tapes, but I'm doing this because I wanted to present the documentation to prove that whatever I said to you regarding um, the action taken by Capital One and who we informed about the fraud is in fact true. So here, this one is to um, Minister Chuck, um, informing him about the fraud. I think at the time he was Minister of Justice, if I'm not mistaken. So here, this was directed to Minister Chuck. So again, when we said the government of Jamaica knows about the fraud and yet nobody is doing anything, um, it surprised us. And again, in that letter to him, we also CC'd him the letter we sent to Chief Justice from March, following what Justice um, Morrison had done regarding telling us he didn't want to hear anything from me in particular. And the word I was searching for in that video, I couldn't remember, was that he said I was being disrespectful because I was getting up. I was on crutches, as I said. So as I was getting up, I'm saying to the judge, I would like for it to be entered in the record that since I'm the director for the company and the appointed representative for the company by order of Justice G. Brown, the Honorable Justice G. Brown, I was firing that woman or lady or young lady that stood there and fraudulently said she was representing my company or the company I formerly owned, which I had in fact assigned my interest to other parties from 2011. And in order to stop them from defrauding those persons, I did a formal sales agreement in 2017 to other parties. So when she appeared in court, again, all these documents and information was in front of the court. And Justice G. Morrison, Justice Anderson, every justice that came into the matter um, had these documents in the court's records. And they can't say they didn't have the physical files, and that would be a sufficient excuse. Because the fact is, they don't need the physical files because they have the thing on soft copy. Everything is scanned into the soft copy. So when this lady came again and young lady came and put that notice, and I said to the judge, she has nothing to do with us. And the rules of the court is that he should have listened to. I'm the litigant. He can't get there and come talk about he's not listening to what I have to say, you know. He's out of order. The man is frankly out of order. And he's the one that was being disrespectful. And I have no qualms about it. He was being a disrespectful brute. And he needs to crawl back under the rock from which he came. Because you don't come and deal with people like that. I am a litigant in the court, Supreme Court, traveled over 1,600 miles to be there on several occasions. And every time I come, there's a flimsy excuse about the file. And nobody has apologized. Nobody has even said to any of us, listen, we apologize for you coming to court and we're not prepared. And why aren't they prepared? And then they come in there with this audacious attitude that, no excuse, no apology, that I am at fault and that I was being disrespectful. And I'm saying that to say this, that all those judges who came in with them nasty attitude, I'm not apologetic. You need to change your attitude. You're serving the public and you're serving me. And if I get there and I have a reason to ask the court for something, you don't have to be rude. You don't have to be insultive. And frankly, that's called judicial abuse. And if you don't know it, go look it up and research it and stop being as if you're doing people a favor. You have a job. We employed you to work there and solve the problem. Now come there with your attitude and then thinking you're going to try to intimidate people. If you want to intimidate everybody, it's not try to intimidate me. I've never been disrespectful to anybody in the Supreme Court or anybody. And if you know me, anybody you know that know me, regardless of their station in life, I have never been disrespectful to anybody. So when I get there, I expect to be respected. And the fact is, I am the one that deserves the apology because here I presented documents in court that prove that people are committing fraud in front of you and refuse to do anything about it. And then have the nerve to turn around and act as if, well, I am the incompetent person. That because I appear pro se, then it means that nothing what I'm saying is of value. So you're going to take a crooked attorney and corrupt attorney as trying to thief people property in front of you, assisting them by not doing your job. As if, well, the litigant is at fault for being there. I am in court because I was ordered to be in court by some summons from the Supreme Court. I'm in court trying to get the money because the Supreme Court judges who disregarded what the Appeals Court ruled gave this guy an injunction or these people an injunction to stop my business. I was about my business, minding my own business, making my money. I want to give him an injunction to stop it, even though the Appeals Court said the case should have been thrown out and then have any standing. So, which intelligent person can tell me now that I was being, I won't even finish, I was being disrespectful? I have these people robbing me and robbing my partners on the top of me disrespectful because I don't sit down there and I don't do no job. And I said, I have no qualms about it. If you don't want to be there, don't come to court. Retire and go get a private practice and join John Graham and go rip off people. So here, well, no, here's weird. John Graham and Capital One filed documents in a U.S. federal court that because of rulings from the Jamaica court, I owed them 600,000 US dollars, and therefore they use that now to allege that they can buy my interest to settle the debt. Now, in the first place, Capital One owes me billions of dollars. And if I owe them even 600,000, how is that going to settle debt? They still owe me. But that's what they did. And then they came back to Jamaica. John Graham walked into the Supreme Court of Jamaica with that kind of argument and allegation and paperwork. Sorry, filing that my interest in business venture has been sold to Capital One or the Alexander Burnham Trust, and therefore I can represent the company. And after that, Justice G. Brown ruled out that garbage can't stand up in Jamaica, right? Before that, Justice, um, lady's name now, Pusey, when they first talked about that, Justice Pusey was there to hear the matter. The files weren't there, she said she can't hear, but out of the discussions that ensued, I remember Justice Pusey asked me, oh, they did that? And I said, yes, and I filed in the information I had filed in the court and detailed all of that. Because one of the things they did, because I filed in the bankruptcy court of the US, by law in the US, Capital was stopped from pursuing any other action against me in terms of trying to collect money they claim I owed, which I didn't owe. It was just an excuse. So what they did now, because it was illegal for them to pursue any collections against anybody or me, they had the crooked judge up there order that I should file the order from that court that they sold my interest in business ventures. For some reason, the idiots think that was going to make a difference. So I went ahead and filed it. I filed it before. So when it came up before Justice Pusey and John Graham mentioned it as if, well, that should mean something. And Justice Pusey did say to them at that point, this is a sovereign country. That thing applies, so they can enforce that kind of an order in Jamaica. And she asked me if I'm going to file the notice which these people had ordered me to file. Because the game was now they're trying to establish some kind of collateral attack against me where they think I wasn't going to file it. And therefore, when I go to judge, they would say I'm in contempt of court and try to use that now to carry out some other nefarious acts against me. But I didn't have a problem. I filed it. I filed it before that hearing. I just didn't say anything. I filed it in the Montego Bay Supreme Court because I wanted them to come in and establish that yeah, he was connected, John Graham was connected to this fraudulent order. And therefore, he can't say him to know anything about it. It was done in the US because he walked into the Jamaica Supreme Court with the argument and talking that nonsense. So it confirms the conspiracy. So he didn't know I filed the documents. I deliberately filed it in Montego Bay because of some slow business between the Montego Bay Supreme Court and the Supreme Court in Kingston, getting documents back and forth. I deliberately filed it there so that it would not reflect in the court at the time in Kingston. I had hard copies. So Justice Pusey said, am I going to file it? And I said, yes, I was. And so I was surprised at the last hearing we appeared in with this Lorraine Gallagher thing in front of Justice Pusey. One of the things Justice Pusey said in identifying the claim was, oh, is this the claim that um, they didn't pay the balance to the purchase price? You know, it shows how prejudiced these judges are because Justice Pusey had the file and there was no money owed to these people. The appeals court already ruled on it. So when she's going to introduce the matter as, oh, is this the asking the other side, of course, with the crooked people sit down on the other side, including the representative for the what's her name, Alicia Robinson, Justice Pusey. Oh, is this the matter that they didn't pay the balance on the purchase price? There's no money owed to these people, and the appeals court ruled on it. So again, this shows the contempt that judges have for the appeals court ruling. And in so doing, they're not only undermining the integrity of the appeals court, undermining the very court they represent. Because she shouldn't have gone there. She shouldn't have said it. Because it doesn't exist, but it shows the prejudice. So because we have some crooked attorneys sitting on one side and me sitting on the other side, pro se, she's going to have the gall to say something like that. I don't know if she was trying to insult me. Because in making those kind of statements. You're not insulting my intelligence. It's quite the opposite. And then at that same hearing, when Justice Pusey said she couldn't hear anything because she didn't have the file or she got it later, or it don't really matter. She said she couldn't have heard the matter and she was going to adjourn it. And I said to the justice that these people keep pulling all kind of, nefarious activity and filing all kind of stuff. Could she then, at this time, give an order for an injunction stopping them from interfering? The judge said to me, if I think she can pull injunctions out of the air. Now the court gives the judge the authorization to act. And there was no limitation on the justice doing that. She knew what was going on. I asked for an injunction. These people had an injunction against my business activity. They constantly have interfered with my business. And I said to the judge, all right, if you can't hear the matter, in order not to have them go filing all kind of garbage after this and all the dilatory actions they've been taking, put an injunction on the matter until to stop them. She said she can't pull injunctions out. If I think she can pull injunctions out of the air with attitude. Now again, I didn't expect that from a judge. I didn't expect that from a judge. I expect that. And say it with attitude too, as if, well, she's lashing out against me. I am the victim here, Justice Pusey, and all them judges who come in there with attitude. Because you have one attorney sit down over this other side. They commit crime and allow them to proceed. And again, in that same hearing, Justice Pusey, when I raised the issue that this guy or these people shouldn't be there, I think it was a young man that was there now, representing Miles Fletcher Garden and Alicia Robinson. And nothing about it. Anyway, here is the fraudulent claim they filed in a U.S. court, which was filed in the Jamaica court as evidence to prove the continued fraud and conspiracy between John Graham, Capital One, Lorraine Gallagher, Alicia Robinson, and all them other participants that got involved with this matter. And these judges are complicit because they knew about it and they allowed it. So here it is in front of you. So I'm not telling anybody anything that's made up. See the 600 and something thousand what them claims say I'm owing because of ruling from the Supreme Court. I don't think because these people file these things saying the Supreme Court of Jamaica did this, the judges would at least do some kind of inquiry, some judicial inquiry as to why. No, that never happened. Instead, I'm being treated as if, well, I am some kind of. See, all of these things were filed in front of the court. And if you can make it out. But it says Lauren Gallagher and co-conspirators attempts to defraud defendants of property in contempt of judgment from the Supreme Court and the Appeals Court that they have, and of course she, Capital One, NA, and the Alexander Burnham Trust have no rights, interest, or ownership in subject property. They have none. And this is was established in the courts, including the Supreme Court. So when these judges of the Supreme Court they come act with them attitude, they might undermine the very court and their own integrity. For what reason? I am not concerned. That's not my business. To this, in open defiance of the ruling from the Appeals Court and the Supreme Court, and these people have the property to list selling. And we're in court with this woman who gave the property, Alicia Robinson of Myers Fetton Garden, for Realtor Nicola Della Pena to sell. The judges not say a word about it, even though it's filed in front of them. Here the people are committing fraud, selling people's property. My property. And the irony about it is, by virtue of the rules of the court, the law of the country, the constitution, and the fact say it's our property. And we raise the issue in the court and provided evidence and they're not doing anything. What does that tell you? And there can't be, you know, any argument that some nefarious activity is going on, and the rest of the judges are allowing it. Here is the smiling Nicola Della Pena. The picture not so hot, or maybe you can. She's somewhere in a Kingston or St. Andrew. And so they have the property listed for 1.5. And they only have it listed, but in the listing, they claim it was under contract or under offer or something like that. So then done well go around now and they try sell people property under offer. The information we received was that some Indian guy in a Mobi had paid them money on it. So of course we contacted the Indian merchants down there and tell them, say, if they're the ones that involved, beware of the fraud. Because we don't want to sue no either. It's not going to be nice. Alright? So here, Capital One NA making petition to the New York Surrogate Court to be appointed trustees in 2013. Yet alleged in court that it was appointed from 2007 or 2002. This is something again that was in front of the court. And we talk about 2021 now, 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017. After we got the judgment and the Royal Court ruled they owed us money. Here, these people are still appearing in court in front of the same judges, and they have evidence that they commit fraud, and them not do nothing. Them accommodate them and try sanction us. And Justice Sykes is doing that now because him no want to reset the date or have them reset the date for our hearing for damages. We want the final order. And we're going to get the final order. And nobody not send nobody there that not understand business or money. Because you can't have a judge who don't understand accounting, business and money to walk in and give them order on damages when them not understand money. They don't understand how a business run. They don't understand nothing about economics. They don't understand anything about opportunity cost. Because the last time I was there, as I said in the previous tape, when they withdrew the injunction and the claim after a file with the US Controller of Currency, a judge when come in at the court and sit down and say no damage was done because the injunction wasn't taken out against me. When the controlling document for the injunction, the controlling document for the injunction, the undertaking, which is the financial instrument that was issued, or the debt instrument that was issued by Capital One via the Supreme Court of Jamaica, saying lock down with business because we're going to pay for any damage that's done to the business or their activity. And anybody that the injunction affected was covered and protected under the injunction for payment of damages. Here it is that in 2013 is when Capital One filed in the US Surrogate Court begging them to appoint them trustees. Remember, they filed from 2010 that they were trustees from 2017. And Holin, Mr. Holin, filed in affidavits in the court that he's been representing Capital One as trustees since 2002. These are all documents that we filed in court showing the fraud and any fraud is fraud. Any attempt to mislead anybody on the fraud of my property or money is fraud. Any fraud that occurs in the court is called fraud against the court. It's a criminal offense. Fraud is fraud. You thief people property. And when these judges ignore all of the facts and you know don't want to rule on the facts, then they're part of the process of defrauding people. And the reality is the court has a fundamental rule that where fraud is involved, any litigant that's involved in making applications to the court and their actions involve or included frauds or attempt to defraud people, the court, by its own rules, cannot assist them in the fraud. So here, when Justice Morrison do him on the same now and listen to us, when we appear in Justice Pews and we say, these people are committing all kind of acts, we need an injunction, and she can't pull it out of the air. When we're going to Justice Anderson's face and say, we need the people who really own these damages to be represented in the court documents, and him go say, him can't do it because we withdrew the application for damages when no application was made for damages because the court ruled that we're entitled to damages. We were there for a final order. Him saying can't do it is acting in contempt of the very court him represent. And they are acting in contempt of the very court and undermining the very court they represent. And people like that should not be working within the court. I don't care how many years they have. You can't imagine how many people they soak up. And because they're scared to people don't know them rights and don't know what they must stand up to. Then here is the date. All right. So here is when they file the application. All right. Here is the date. See me right, you can identify the big old arrow. 2013 is when they applied and they begged the court. And this is an application. This is no appointment. And I'll remind you again that we mentioned Justice Morrison. Justice B. Morrison, who in 2013 appointed appointed Capital One as administrator for an estate that doesn't exist. And again, no Jamaica judge can appoint no trustee for a New York-based trust. The judge know better. Him know that. Chief Justice Sykes know that. Everybody know that. And to verify again that under the laws of Florida, I had taken action to protect the beneficiaries of what we're doing or the successors in interest, which should have been substituted. The ones that Kirk and this name can't do. But he have no reason, no legal reason to do it, to stop it. He won't grant the order. Here is the official document that filed and authenticated under US law that these are the people that own the interest that I assigned and have the crooked woman. I keep saying woman, but it's not a woman. She's pretty young. A young woman. Don't know nothing about the world and what can happen when you thief people property. I'm in a court about she represent me, and when we ask her who get her authorization, then she go say, are the owners. They look straight in our face, they will say the owners. Let me just show you the owners, including me, because I have an interest, I have a financial interest. I'm the director of the company. You go and come in and say, you represent me, and Justice Morrison. And in fact, it extends to Justice Kirk and listen as well. When he goes say in and listen to the people and they are, in fact, in his orders that he wrote, he gave them instructions to prepare documents. So me the idiot. See, authenticated, say the interest in the business and the damages were assigned to other parties. Authenticated. So again, I just wanted to document all of that because I don't want people to go around and say I'm just making false allegations and that I'm upset. Or I'm upset. Because even this morning, I'm out by the beach now and I had to drive here to try and come relax. Because when I think about it, the more I think about it, and the attitude of these people and trying to say we are the parties that are being offensive in the process. After you go say, I am disrespectful because I stand up and they tell you as a judge, say, these people don't represent me, you go tell me, see, no one, listen to me. And I am the one that's being disrespectful for my money and my property. You know, put a penny in my pocket to cost me money and I have to come to court. And you go come with that garbage after you go have people take money out of my pocket. I could have been spending time with my family and my business. I have to be in a Jamaica court to come sit down in front of you and being insulted. Or any of the judges who do that. When people come to court and come in front of the court, they're not come there to be insulted and not have attitude because somebody speak the truth. And as I said before, nobody not going to stand up in front of me and look me in the face and sit down behind one bench and go try rob me and deny me my rights, constitutional and natural, and then go treat me as if I'm the person that's deserving of disrespect. Better know yourself. Now, this is to show, as I said, that reports have been made to the police, the Jamaica police, from way back when. So here's a receipt. And this is only one of the receipts. Because I filed a couple reports with the police. In Montego Bay, them said they lose the file. Then they tell me I have to go Kingston because them can't handle the case, it's so big. Then when I got to Kingston, Kingston said them asked me to help them. Then can't find the attorney, even though I'm work on Market Street in a court every day. And John Graham in a Kingston in a court all over the place. In a hide. They said they can't find him. Right? Then I was sent to Mocha. Them actually tell me to go to Mocha. Then when I moved from Orange Street and I went back, I spoke to a young lady at Summit who is in charge at Summit. And she said, oh, yeah, I remember the case. And she sent me back to Kingston again. Same circle, send the fool a little further. But I'm here the fool. I want to try to think about what I'm doing with people's lives. Because when I'm going to take a person's life, 16 years of a person's life, and waste it, and then think it's all right for us sit down and casually tell people, oh, come back at court because we don't have the file. Or no, don't want to set up people forget back what they're deserving of. You're messing with people's lives, and you don't have that right. You don't have that right. Excuse me, I'm getting a call here. I'm not going to take it. Let me see. Let me have this thing. All right, hopefully they won't call back. All right. Again, another affidavit sent to the registrar talking about the fraud, talking about resetting, hearing for damages. Nothing to date. A whole bunch of stuff. All right. Here is. Let me see. Here's where they filed with the New York courts to withdraw or reinstate business ventures, which is they didn't have the right to do, legally or otherwise, committing fraud. And then they use that to come back to Jamaica court and they present all those things to the Jamaica judges after we provide authenticated evidence and not do anything. Then they come back with some nonsense about, oh, we committed fraud. You know, presented all the documents to the courts, of course. And again, nothing, nothing at all being done. So I'm going to close because, again, this is just to let the world know that Chief Justice Sykes not doing his job and we need action. Now, here's the written judge's notes from Justice G. Brown. Item 4 on the thing, you see where the court appointed me as being able to represent the company after they came down and filed all the fraudulent stuff. All the fraudulent stuff. All right. And where the judge also set the hearing on damages and for interim payments. That was 2018. So again, making sure that everybody knows that we're not telling any lies here and we can back up everything we're saying. So now now that you have all this information, it's up to you to make a difference. Call all of these people you're supposed to call and deal with it. Here, a file with the courts here in Jamaica again, showing that US trustee that was handling my business, they don't have any right to, they don't have any jurisdiction in Jamaica. Well, this is what John Graham coming to court with down here, and the judges down here pay attention and I give them all kind of stuff. So, what I had done, I delivered to file a paper to the trustee, and I said, all right, these guys owe me money, so collect the money for me. Here's what he wrote. I've received your email of today. In the future, please direct any emails to me. Well, he wanted me to do that to him directly because what I did, I CC the actual trustee of the Southern District and I sent it to Atlanta as well. Because I like to keep document everything so nobody can say Well, me lose the paper or them never get it. Other people got it. I will try to respond in the same number of paragraphs as in your email. And he went on because I had said, go collect the money for me. He said, any interest held by you in any litigation as a plaintiff is property of your bankruptcy estate. As right, which is saying any litigant in which I'm a plaintiff. So if I file a claim, then it means he can act on it and deal with the claim as a trustee to my estate. Meaning, if I'm a defendant, he don't have nothing to do with it. As to your interest as a defendant, that is you and you alone. So what he's saying, as long as I'm a defendant in that matter, he don't have no jurisdiction, he don't have no interest. I'm on my own. I have to deal with my own. Then it goes on to say, as a debtor in the is the defense. No, I asked as a debtor. Oh, sorry. No, before I don't need to go on to that. It says that as a defendant, that is you and you alone. Further, as to any interest of any entity other than yourself, only you are in bankruptcy and not any separate business entity. Which is saying business ventures and solutions which them try for thief and come to Jamaica and the judges don't allow the woman who claims that she represents business ventures and solutions. He doesn't have any interest or authorization or jurisdiction over any business entity and not have anything to do with my personal estate. So yet, them claims to them by my interest in business ventures and solutions when legally I had already assigned all of those interests to my beneficiaries, to other parties of interest. And all of that in front of the Jamaica court and in front of these judges who are play around and are play with people's lives. And when you interfere with people's life and their economy and their money, you're interfering with their family and their life and their health. So I need to be accountable. And as I said before, I have no qualms in saying if you don't like what you're doing and you can represent the institutions that you represent with the responsibility that you're assigned, left, go somewhere else, or work privately, do your thing, and allow people who really have the integrity to want to stand up and stand up for truth and justice for taking a position. Jobs are short. You know, there's people who are going to complicate people's lives. The other thing I did was when they started all of that, I had filed suit in the US against them. And the notes here represent documents that follow that state that the US courts don't have any jurisdiction over my business in Jamaica or what I was doing. Right? Here's I went all the way to the Supreme Court, even though people are saying, why are you going to go there and do that? I said I wanted to do that because I wanted from the highest court in Florida. I went to the Supreme Court. I filed the Supreme Court of the United States. And the Supreme Court, Friday, July 22, 2016, states clearly case number SC16-1305, Anthony Tharp versus Capital One Bank, NA, et al. Supreme Court, having determined that this court is without jurisdiction, this is hereby dismissed. And they gave some case law. No motion for a rehearing or reinstatement will be entered by the court. So what this court was saying, the U.S. Supreme Court, the Supreme Court of Florida, on Friday, July 22nd, 2016, is that them have no jurisdiction in the matter. So if the Florida Supreme Court has no jurisdiction, no court in Florida can come but they don't have jurisdiction. So when these people walk into a Jamaica court with an order from a U.S. court claiming they buy my interest that was already transferred or assigned to other parties in a business that has nothing to do with the matter at hand, then why is a Jamaica court or judge listening to a woman who walk in and say she's acting because these people carry their own business. And then they look at me and say, I'm the idiot. I am the idiot. Disregarding the court system that you represent. And I go pay adherence to a woman who walking, a young lady who walking, so she represent the owners of the company. When the owners of the company is in front of you and tell you, say, they never ask anybody to file nothing in front of them. And your response is to say that the owners are being disrespectful and they don't have nothing to hear from us. All right? So again, I have a whole bunch of the documents. I don't even go into it. I just want to show you this one. Certificate of appointment of trustees. All right? Here is this. If you can see it, it's saying the trustee that was appointed was David Rubin, and that was in 2007. So why is Capital One filing in court documents in Jamaica that there were trustees from 2000 to 2007? When in 2013, which I showed to you earlier, them still have filed papers asking the surrogate court to appoint them as trustee. So here, letter of trusteeship, January 30th, 2007. And it says, I certify that the letter is in the estate of deceased name below have been granted by this court as follows. Name, Alexander M. Burnham, that the person whose estate. And the fiduciary appointed is David Rubin of 1600 Hillside Avenue, New York, Hyde Park. And it has a Norfolk Bank, which is a secondary, or what you call a trustee in waiting, or joint trustee. So when David Rubin would have passed, they would assume that trusteeship. Now, the thing about it, which most of you probably won't know, is that Norfolk Bank was closed down. Capital One by Norfolk Bank and closed it down. But then they never got any appointment as trusteeship. So they don't have anything to do with anything. Plus, we were never dealing with a trust. We never dealt with any, and the Appeals Court of Jamaica ruled on it. And the bottom line is, it's what the Appeals Court of Jamaica ruled that's standing here, that has weight. And as I said, Justice Sykes, Kirk Anderson, Justice Morrison, and the go-to ladies, I love give out injunction. And the judge them I love give out injunction against people who the appeals court rule shouldn't be given or shouldn't be interfered with these people. But we not take out injunction against them. I want to remain unapologetic. Come a court with attitude. And I try to shame us. When we lose our money and our time. And we need to get on with our lives. So I'm again closing and saying to Justice Sykes, you in charge of the appeals, the Supreme Court. The appeals court did their jobs. The appeals court take no action that interfere with us. In fact, they cleared the way for us to go on with the business. On acting in contempt of the Appeals Court of Jamaica, undermine the integrity of the judicial system by allowing a handful of people to continue hurting us. All we want is the final order with the damages we prove. We file all of that in the court. Now the process is that if Capital One disagree with the amount of money we're asking for, we prove, then bring in financial accounting firms with the experience in auditing, financial auditing, forensic auditing, and let them run the process and come up with a number. Now, but I send no judgment or no nothing about accounting or money complain on games about, oh, there's no damage. Not going to work because we had the very court appoint expert witnesses and they already said there's substantial damage. Again, people of Jamaica, I don't want to be out here. I'm a private individual. I don't get involved in unnecessary mess. I was dragged into this. I think it's my responsibility to let Jamaica know if we want Jamaica survive in the future, then the courts have to be cleaned up. Judges must act in accordance to the law. I went to the Supreme Court. Most of them judges just give an order. No say how they come up with an order or a judgment. Now break it down except in a few occasions. Most of them come in a court. Oh, we're just going to get an injunction. We're just going to extend an injunction. I've been to the appeals court. The appeals court write them decisions so that people have it and can refer to. And in all fairness, understand why a judge would make a statement. So if there is reason to challenge it, you have it in writing. Or when a judge going to come in and walk into court and laugh and joke around, and when him sit down to take care of business, go tell people him not have to listen to nothing today because we withdraw. We tell him withdraw and he just say nah here we are no write a order. Him no adjourn the matter and think that's okay. And I am the person that is disrespectful, that's offending people. Thank you, Jamaica. And this is not just for Jamaica. I started a website, and one of the sub areas of the website is called Judicial Watch. And the reason for that is that I believe it's important if we are to preserve our democracy and decency and honesty within our judicial system where people are respected and the citizens what the courts represent are not denied their rights because some judges feel because they're appointed judges, they have the right to do whatever they want to do. No, that's not the case. We don't work for us. Work for the people. We don't owe anybody anything. We're not getting paid. And I say if you don't like your job, left it. That's all you have to do. Resign, walk, go somewhere else. There are people who want the job and will do it. So the website has a designated area. And what that will be doing will be looking at cases. And it's not just about Jamaica. This is being done with the hope we can reach the globe. As I said before, most democracies collapse because of collapse of the judicial system. When people can't get justice done, people get to the point where they revolt, they rebel, they start burning down the place, they start killing people, and people call them terrorists because people feel they have the right to step onto people's rights and there are no consequences. Our history is one come out of oppression. Then all the way out of Africa, people don't sell we. We end up in a Jamaica because people buy we. And when we came here, some of our ancestors had the audacity to fight back and go up into the hills and turn maroons and then fight. And because of their struggles, the British get freed and eventually, but then they grant with freedom. Nobody no grant somebody freedom. If somebody gives something, they can take it back. We want our freedom. And this is where we take we heads off to the Marines with caps off to the Marines. And not the Marines, the Maroons. Because they fought back. But typically, that's what's going on around the place. When you find people being oppressed, eventually they fight back. We don't want to go there. People in Jamaica are across the world and they look to live in peace, harmony, and the best life they can. So the court have a responsibility to deliver and to make sure it keeps those dissidents who undermine the court system out of there. Kick them out. And I'm asking the court, the Chief Justice, the registrar, who I am told is responsible for assigning cases and all of that. And it reaches out to the judges too, If you are assigned a case, why are you waiting until a week before the matter is heard when the matter has been set for months? Forget the file. The minute the case has been assigned to you, the file should have been delivered the very day, the very next day. So you have time to go through the file over a period of weeks or months so that when the matter is heard, the file should have been delivered the very day, the very next day. So you have time to go through the file over a period of weeks or months so that when the matter is heard, the file should have been delivered the very day, the very next day. So you have time to go through the file over a period of weeks or months People come to court, here's the files, or you just get it overnight. But what that does is shows a complete disregard for the litigants, them time, them money, and them lives. Because when people have to spend time, money, and come to court to hear that, and again, no apology, you come 10 times to court, the same nonsense. It shows a complete disregard and disrespect for people. Every time I have to fly into Jamaica, it costs me over $100,000 just to come down and go court, pick up a car and go court, stay at one hotel, over $100,000. And that not all. I've spent as much as on a trip up to $1 million. And you come down, you have to print this, you have to run over here, you can't go to court, you can't get information, you go to the courthouse, and so then system broke down. And you have weeks and months to get your act together. But because you don't have any respect for people, that is what's going on. Inefficiency. So I'm saying to the registrar and all the administrators of the courthouse, get together and work like any other corporation. Operations are inefficient and they cost your clients money. And you're not solving the problems. And you allow corruption to go on because you don't know who in the corrupt and file fraudulent documents and not file because it's in front of you. And you have a responsibility to make sure the court is also cleaned or cleansed. The judges are decent, law abiding judges with the task of delivering justice as it should be. You also have a responsibility. So, Anthony Tharp, no, make no apologies to anybody because I haven't done anything wrong. I'm looking forward to improvement. And I'm looking forward to not an early date because it's late. You can't give me something after 4 or 5 years to talk about it early. I want the date for my time to come down and get my order. For my judgment. I got the judgment for my damages. It's my money, it's my property, and nobody in the court have no right to sit down on it. When I'm begging for my money, it's my money. It's my time. The time you stop my business from functioning was the time you have a responsibility to deliver so I can get compensated for the damages you've done. So the thing when we come to court, you're doing me a favor. Or I should be coming in and kiss nobody's ass. I'm not doing it. Do no job. And if you don't like what I'm saying, don't show up for my hearing. Recuse yourself. I need a judge or judges that are objective, deal with people with respect, and do on your job. Follow the rules of the court. Follow the law. Because I'm not begging you a favor. And I reach out to the Prime Minister again, and the Minister of Justice, and the Minister of wherever who have responsibility on it. Or the commission that I was thinking about the other day wasn't a Civil Service Commission. It was a Judicial Service Commission. The Integrity Commission. All I know, we're not supposed we're doing no job to make Jamaicans and Jamaicans' lives better. Step up or resign. Go about to no business. Anthony Thought now make no apology for speaking the truth. I want my rights respected. My ancestors didn't come down and beg nobody. Them fight for them freedom. And then win it. Yeah, may have maroon in my blood too, like everybody else. And maroons never betray Jamaica when they catch the low life black people, them Africans who know want to sit down on the estate. And when maroons fight up in the hills and get them freedom, that's when they no choose to run, come up there. And because of extradition treaties, them catching the back and sending the back down there. So a whole bunch of people have argued about maroons were this and that and they betray. Maroons never betray nobody. Maroons stand up and fight. One their right to live, they no win, they never get no freedom from nobody. So in the spirit of the maroons that flows through my veins, I mean, I fight for my rights as well. And nobody not going to treat me as if you're doing me a favor. I haven't disrespected anybody. I don't go around disrespect people. And when I come to court, I expect it to be treated with the same regard and the same respect. Sometimes some judges come in there and do some stuff. And by right, they're giving me the opportunity to be rude. And I've refrained from being that. Because I not come from the same cloth. We come from something better. And if you feel you have to come to court and because you're a judge, the way you can show your authorities to insult people and disregard people's rights, then you're in the wrong business. Okay, you know, impress me, you know, impress nobody with sense. Because we have a right, and we have a responsibility, we have a duty. And we're going to demand, say, no left before that, you know, come a court, come do. Leave. And I'm going to be posting this, you know, call or send another email to the Chief Justice. But guess what? Me release it because whether him respond now or not, we can't afford this to continue in the future for anybody else. So it must be exposed. And I guarantee if this is happening here in the Supreme Court, it probably happened worse in maybe not worse, but it's still happening in the lower courts. We need it fixed. So there I go. I don't think I'll be doing another one of this. I think I've covered everything that needs to be covered, and it's up to Jamaicans now to act. If we don't value no rights as Jamaicans and no want respect and no want the courts to function, then we need to step up. We need to get a civil service, an independent review board, and an independent management company for the courts. And have nothing to do with government. Assess every judge and them ruling over a 1 year period and review it every year. And if them where you have complaints, you know, investigate it and deal with it. Because if you don't have some kind of system of accountability in any organization, then you're not going to have problems. We're going to have problems. And it's not you, it's we. Because it's affecting me. It's affecting a whole bunch of people. Affect the entire Jamaica. And people who really want to make contributions to the country are put in a position where, you know, why should we? Why should we? Have a great weekend, everybody. Tomorrow is the 1st of May, 2020, I think. Or is it the day after? I don't even. But today is the 30th. So enjoy. Have a great weekend. And please pay attention because we want Jamaicans and people all over the world to have a good life. Thank you. Bye.